Hi, everybody. It's Marc Champ from the Wharf Academy here. Thank you for joining us. And today we have the legend that is Simon King with us. Hi, Simon. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Mark. Very well indeed.
Good, good. And for those of you who don't know, Simon is the first person to be asked back twice on this YouTube channel. So that is a high accolade. But he also served over 40 years at Lloyd's Bank, which I don't know how he did it, but I'm sure there were
Yeah,
some good moments.
yeah, there was plenty of good moments. It's a cracking organisation with some great people there, and I have very fond memories.
Yes, and I was there for quite a while. Not half of what Simon was there for, not even a quarter. But it's a good place, good people, and they do a lot of good. So today we're going to be talking about cash flow and the perfect storm. We've seen the warnings in the press about recession coming, and there's been warning signs all over. And today, Simon, who's given a presentation to the Business Over Breakfast Network, he's going to talk us through that and answer some questions about where we're at the moment and what people can do and businesses can do to best prepare for this storm that we see not on the horizon. I think it's a bit closer. What would you say?
Yeah, I'd say it's imminent, and it's certainly affecting businesses already. Businesses are already struggling, and unfortunately, if the press and the economists are to be believed, and it looks like they're all of the same opinion, it's going to get a fair bit worse yet.
And do you think the high street lenders are going to support businesses in this time?
Well, Mark, as you and I know, and as we both just said, the high street lenders are manned and womaned by very, very good, talented people who work very hard and do their very best for their clients and often get unfair criticism in the press. However, the high street banks, the high street lenders, by their nature, have to be low risk because they are the nation's utility provider for cash. And we saw what happened in 2008 when some of them took some fairly high risk strategies. So they have to be low risk. If you're going to be a low risk bank, you've got to have low risk customers, because if your customers are high risk, it means you're high risk. So they are obviously bound by a fairly tight credit policy. But the other thing is that the banks are absolutely laden, if you like, with this massive amount of debt. The coronavirus emergency loans that went out during the pandemic, and the high street banks lent the vast majority of that, which was something like £80 billion, which I worked out equates to, if it was shared out equally across the nation, something like £1,100 per man, woman, and child. So whilst the high street banks are guaranteed for those loans by the government, the high street banks are not guaranteed by the government for any overdrafts which may accrue from the repayment of those loans under the extremely challenging economic conditions that we're seeing at the moment. So the banks will be aware that they have this massive challenge of recovering the debt of the C bills and the B bills loans, and that businesses will be struggling to repay that, and that the banks will not be protected if they allow customers to run up significant overdrafts in repaying those loans. So they're facing a very tough challenge.
And I presume going from a C-bills loan where it's interest free to a rate that isn't the rate that they were expecting 2 years ago when they took out the C-bills loan, it's a rate that's probably doubled now
Yeah,
almost. So
yeah,
there's going to be a big shock for people moving from C-bills to a normal facility. And I remember when I was in the bank, we had the dreaded excess list in the morning. And the excess list, for people who don't know, was a list you got of everybody who'd gone over their limit, whether they had an overdraft or not, where they were currently sitting. And you ring the customer up and say, "Hi, Mr. Customer, you've gone over your limit. What are you going to do about it? Or do you need some help?" I presume there's going to be quite a few of these phone calls and letters going out to customers. So, what would you advise them? What should they be thinking about?
well, the first thing, even the best accounts will have the occasional unauthorized excess letter telling them that they've either gone overdrawn without discussing, without setting up a limit, or they've exceeded a credit limit. So the letter in itself shouldn't be cause for a huge amount of alarm. It's when those letters become regular that you have an issue. And my strong advice, particularly in the current conditions, is do not throw the letter in the bin. Do not say, I've been with this bank for 10 years. As soon as I'm under pressure, they send me nasty letters. Well, you can say that if you like. But do not ignore these letters, particularly if they start coming regularly, because if you ignore the letters, the banks are going to think you have disengaged. The banks will be extremely nervous about your ability and your will to repay the borrowing, and will treat you accordingly. And that means basically if the bank decides at some date it will no longer support your company, you really have very little grounds for complaint, because you disengaged. You did not communicate with the bank when they asked you to. So yeah, a one-off, the occasional unauthorized excess letter should not be cause for huge alarm, but if it becomes a regular thing, definitely action has to be taken.
And what sort of action would you say needs to be taken? Say if you got in that position, what would your first port of call be?
Yeah, and interesting how people react. So first of all, as I've mentioned, the kind of understandable reaction is to get angry, screw the letter up and throw it in the bin, and say nasty things about the bank. The second common reaction is to phone the bank in a very bullish manner and say the check's in the post, nothing to worry about here, nothing to see here, don't worry. It's fine to take a bullish attitude, but if the bullish attitude is not realistic, then all that happens, unfortunately, is the customer loses credibility with his bank or her bank, which is never a good look. The next reaction is obviously very sad. The customer panics, understandably, works every hour God sends to try and earn more money for the company. Loses sleep at night, stewing over the matter, maybe has rows with his or her partner, and perhaps can have health issues. I mean, that's in the worst case. So the panic is another thing that can happen, and basically that's not a good look either. So that's why, Mark, in the presentation I recently gave to the Bob Club, I showed a film of a warship, a French frigate, I believe it was, in very high seas, in a very difficult position, because we're talking about the perfect storm. And I thought it might be interesting to look at a ship, because at the end of the day, ships are designed to withstand perfect storms. And I thought we might be interested to see how that actually happens.
So what's that all about, Simon? Well, you've got a ship going through stormy waters. What is the analogy there? What represents what?
The analogy here is that the ship's captain has dedicated his or her life to handling that exact situation, and that everything has been focused on the safety of the ship in whatever way the conditions. And yet, my point is, the owner of a business has probably never had any formal training in how to weather a financial storm. So if you look at the bridge of a ship, if you can imagine the bridge of a ship, you see massive amount of visual display units, dials, radar readings, there's weather maps, satellite navigation, you name it. The captain has the information at his fingertips. And my strong opinion is that the owner of any business should treat his desk like the bridge of a ship, should have that information available. Okay, maybe not weather maps, maybe not satellites, but what the owner is looking at is what's the figures, understanding the figures, understanding the performance of the business, what lines are making profit, what lines are losing money, how's our debtor book looking, who's paying us, who's taking a while to pay us, who might have a problem paying us, and the same with the creditors, who's snapping at our heels for instant settlement, who might be able to give us a little bit longer. So what I'm saying is the owner of the business needs to act like the captain of a ship, and you would not expect the captain of a ship to ignore a situation, to be unnecessarily bullish, or to panic and lose sleep. You would expect the captain of a ship to calmly assess the position, discuss it with his first officers or her first officers, and the owner of a company doesn't have first officers, but the owner of a company will have a bookkeeper who might be able to examine the books and give some information about the state of things, especially the accuracy, which is very, very important. And I'd definitely recommend talking to the accountant as well. What does the accountant think of the performance of the company? What are some good options for the company going forward? And are we hitting the budgets? Are we hitting our budgets? And what's our projections looking like?
Okay, and I presume you've got a lot of experience, and there's things that you could do to alleviate the pressure on the captain.
Yeah, well, again, it comes back to what you and I do for a job, Mark. We find courses for horses. That's the right. It sounds the wrong way around.
Horses for courses.
We say horses for courses, but we actually find the right course for the right horse, don't we? So, coming back to the high street banks, they are the lowest risk lenders in the marketplace. And you and I deal with I think it's almost 100 regulated lenders we've got on our books, Mark. And they range from those high street banks to the challenger banks, the secondary banks, and right the way up to the balance sheet lenders, the short-term bridgers, who will basically take a much more relaxed attitude with risk, providing that there's an asset there that supports the lending. So what I'm saying is, I suppose, should the high street bank fall out of love with its customer and decide that customer is no longer low risk, and it's the low risk customers that bank needs in order to survive, there's things that they will do. Now, they will. What will probably happen if they're concerned is they will say to the customer, "Yeah, we'll continue to support you, but we'll put you in our special support unit for customers whose credit rating has deteriorated." And the problem with that for the customer is they will find their bank fees and their interest rates will go up significantly because of that extra resource that the bank is having to invest, because the bank is also having to set aside additional funding because the bank feels that loan might default. The customer's cost of finance will go up significantly, and it's at that juncture where, unfortunately, in my experience, customers just shrug their shoulders and say, "Oh dear, I'm in trouble." Well, they should actually be putting their heads up, and a bit like the captain of a ship should be calling the Coast Guard. And it's you and me, Mark, who I think are the Coast Guard, because we've got the ability to call in help. We can say, "Look, you are in a position here. You're not a low risk customer anymore, but you're with a low risk bank. Why don't we scour the market and see if we can find somebody who will welcome your business, as opposed to someone who really doesn't want you, with the best will in the world, doesn't want you because you are not what they do."
Yeah, and I know we both have people around us, accountants, solicitors, wealth managers, people who look at cash flow, those types of people that I know that can help these types of situations. So I presume what you're saying is people who are struggling with cash flow, act quickly, act decisively, and make sure you address the problem head on, and bring everything together with the help of professionals to make the best of any situation.
Exactly, Mark. But the problem is, it's kind of counterintuitive, because I think if it was me or you, certainly if it was me and I found myself in that position, I probably would panic. But I'd certainly be working harder to try and work my way out of it, as opposed to saying, "Hang on a second, let's take a step back, let's just take a time out. Who can help me? Who can give me sound professional advice? Because I've got a situation here and I need to talk to people." And I think it's very, very easy in that situation to keep it all to yourself, try and take it all on yourself. And that's, to come back again to the analogy of the captain of the ship. The captain of the ship is definitely going to be talking to the people around him, the deck officers around him, who are professionals as well. And I strongly think that the owner of a company should not be trying to take it all on themselves, and should be looking for, as I said, professional help. Certainly the accountant, financial advisors, and as I say, I think as well, the way the banking industry has gone, there's far less personal contact with customers nowadays. It's much more about online banking. And I think it's for the likes of you and me, who are the ex-bank managers, where we've got the ability to step up and say, "Okay, let's have a chat. Let's see how we can help you."
Yeah, I think you're right, and it's important to do it early. Make sure that you get in preventative measures early
Absolutely.
to help and make sure it doesn't go to the point of no return. So
exactly right.
Excellent. Good. All right. Well, we'll leave it there, but thank you very much for that. Really appreciate it.
Welcome.
If people want to get hold of Simon, they can email him at simon@wharffinancial.co.uk. More than happy, I'm sure he is, to take any inquiries and offer any advice. If people want to follow us on social media, it is at Wharf Financials. And there'll be some more videos to follow. So please subscribe and share. And if you need anything from us, please feel free to get in touch. Thank you very much. And thank you,
Thanks
Simon.
very much. Thank you.